Our Pace Show continues. Sports fans, join the Rod Squad newsletter today. Stay ahead of the game with exclusive insights, updates, contests, and exclusive content delivered straight to your inbox. Sign up for free today at rodpeterson.com. It includes my 10 Things column where we get to all the hottest sports topics. Please welcome in Jason Gregor. And before we do, Laverne writes in from Swift Current on the 902 text line. He says, spicy show today. It is. You would not know, Jason, that it's supposed to be a holiday, for God's sakes. How's your U.S. Thanksgiving going, brah?
Well, buddy, I'm living in Canada, so it's not really. Although I am watching the Detroit Lions dismantle Chicago, which is not a surprise by any stretch. I think the Lions have more plays than the Bears have yards at this point. So,
you know, what is the score? Do you have it right in front of you?
10-0.
I don't have it on here. So. Oh, my God. Okay, it's going to be a rout. I think 10.5 was the line the last I saw. Here's something that you can sink your teeth into, Jason. I said I'm seeing more Canadians than ever going to NFL games in the States and that the CFL should be worried about this. Kind of an underlying theme of today's show. Are your friends or associates or Facebook friends, do you see that like I have?
Yeah, there's some for sure. The CFL, it goes up and down. There's certain markets that have been really strong for a long time. That Edmonton's obviously not where they want to be. Calgary's not where they want to be, and the strength has always kind of been the West, similar to the NBA right now. But I think it's something you have to be aware of. You don't have to be fearful of it, but you have to look and say, okay, what can we do? Like, Edmonton's rejigged their whole organization, and they're going to bring pride back, I think, for the first time, which is important to them. But, Calgary, I'm not sure what the direction they're going. And, does their ownership want to spend a dime? It's funny. Like, it's an ownership that owns the NHL team, and they're not spending money at all in the CFL team. And so that's probably a bigger concern. I think the fans will come back. If you have a good product, I'm a firm believer in that. And because let's be honest, for the small percentage of people that can pay to travel for an NFL game, there's way more that can go to arena. You can get season tickets and go to 9 games way cheaper than one trip to the NFL.
There you go. Well said. And we'll get to the NHL in a second, but you mentioned the Elks. How did you feel about your guy Ed Hervey's comment about the laughingstock? The Elks have become the laughingstock of the CFL. Got some raised some eyebrows. What did you think?
Well, truth hurts. I think it's been a tire fire in Edmonton for the last 5 years. Like, and from top down, everybody in the organization. Like I thought Chris Morris had a very astute point when he talked about if you're going to be the president of a team, which he is now, and he says, I hope when I'm gone, the person who replaces me, you can't. The last few presidents in Edmonton, they didn't know anything about football, Rod. So if you have a president, but then you have a president of football, okay. But I don't think you can have a president of a pro sports team that has zero understanding of the actual sport, right? Like I just don't think that's you're going to lead to much success. And that led to some bad hirings. And just you go down the list of where the organization's gone. Like what's good about their organization right now? Like they've got some pieces, actually. I'll give them credit. Like it's not like, Chris Jones left the cupboard completely bare by any stretch of the imagination, but they refused to play their best player. It was moronic to the point where what they did with Trey Ford and tried to sewer him publicly, there's so many things that have gone wrong in that organization that I don't think there's a quick fix. But I will say having Morris on the business side in the community, and then Hervey as a football guy, they've gotten the attention of a lot of their fans, and I don't think they're done, Rod. Like there'll be some other big announcements coming, not just coach, but I think even from an organizational standpoint that's going to go over well with their fan base in Edmonton.
I like to hear it. I look forward to it. I know of quite a few because I've talked to some of their coaches. Some are coming back, some aren't. We'll let the Elks announce that. As far as the Oilers go,
I would say most
not in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think, Rod, you and I'd agree that most of their coaches won't be coming back. I think maybe like a few position coaches, none of the big positions.
Yeah. To the Oilers, they're not in a playoff spot. How concerned are people right now on this U.S. Thanksgiving date?
Not very concerned, probably, nor should they be. The Oilers, if I would have pulled everybody around the NHL at the start of the season and said, what is the one area of Edmonton you're most confident that they will be good at? I think you would have had pretty unanimous power play. They had the best power play, the historically best power play in the NHL history for 5 years. And it sucks right now. And, they've still got McDavid. They still got Draisaitl. They'll figure it out. Their 5-on-5 defending, which most people probably thought would be their worst aspect, has actually been their best. It's been the most consistent. Their 5-on-5 scoring's kind of woken up here in this month. Their power play still meh. Their penalty kill's good. The Oilers will be fine because, Rod, look at all these other teams. Vancouver now, they just got the Hronek injury. They're a point ahead of them. Calgary's a few points ahead of them. Game in hand for Edmonton. They're not out of it by any stretch of the imagination. So they've kind of sleptwalked through the first 22 games, being just above average, but they're not in any real trouble, and that's the good thing for them.
Well, I mean, you do it every day. You talk this every day. And I just, from a pure outsider, I don't care about the Oilers, but I live with a huge Oilers. And it's like, Woodcroft got fired last year when they sleptwalked through the first 2 months. And now you got this coach that took them all the way to the Stanley Cup. Now what? You're sleepwalking again? You know what I mean? Like, what's it going to take for you guys to get serious?
Yeah, 2-9-1's a lot different. Like, the Oilers are above 500, right? Like, I think that the bar has been risen in Edmonton, as it should be. But, like, 2-9-1 is a lot different than 10, what are they, 10, 9-3? Or 10-8? No, 10-8-4, I don't even know. 11, yeah, whatever they are, I don't even know. But I'm not, like, honestly, Rod, like, outside of Winnipeg's ridiculous start, Carolina had a really good run. Like, look at the Atlantic, Florida, Boston struggling, Tampa Bay's okay. Toronto did pretty well without Matthews and then got spanked. Buffalo's in the mix, for goodness sake. So it's kind of more wide open this year, I think, other than in the Metro division where, there's some clear separation from their top three teams. And, there's a lot more concern, I would think, in Nashville and other places. Edmonton's a hockey market, right? Like, I'm a pretty calm person, so I don't think I speak for the fans. I think a lot of fans were upset, but I think it's a lot of much ado about nothing. You can't win the cup in October. You can lose it by putting yourself in a real bad hole, and the Oilers aren't in a bad hole. They're not where they want to be, but I won't be surprised here. You come up in December, they've got a real favorable schedule that by the time we get to Christmas, Edmonton will probably be comfortably in a playoff spot.
Gotcha. Did I see that you had Ken Holland on your show?
Yeah, in the Business of Sports, a new segment I do with Rich Winter. We had Ken on for an hour. Yeah, it's fantastic.
What'd he say?
Well, we talked a lot about kind of like the business of a GM and, trades and how, when you negotiate stuff like that. And it wasn't a lot about his time in Edmonton. We talked a little bit about his time in Edmonton because honestly, like, I know there's a lot of people out there that, oh, yeah, Ken Holland, this or that. And I'm like, all I look at are results. Before Ken Holland came in, the Oilers had made the playoffs once in 13 years. And 4 of those years were with Connor McDavid. Every year with Ken Holland, they made the playoffs, and every year they got better. And they went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final and lost by 1 goal. And had 2 pretty good chances in the third period, didn't bury them. So, what else does you want? Now, I know people are upset about Broberg. Well, Broberg didn't want, what people don't understand is you can offer a guy a contract all you like. If the guy wants to get traded, he ain't signing the contract. Now, the one thing the Oilers, in hindsight, Rod, and hindsight's a beautiful thing. The one thing they might have done if they really wanted to put the screws to him was in the playoffs before he played that game against Dallas. You say, hey, Philip, we're going to play you, but you got to sign a 2-year extension right now today for 1.5, 1.8 mil. Now, maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't have, but that's really, what else can you do? Right? Like, there's not, hey, Phil, we sign a contract. He's in the American League. There's no chance in January he's signing a contract when he's pissed off and he's in the American League. Like, give me a break. And so Dylan Holloway was one where, I think in hindsight, could they have signed him a little bit earlier? Maybe. But I think, honestly, Rod, you looked at his numbers, he's not a guy who historically has been an offer sheet player, and his offer sheet wasn't crazy. They probably could have matched Holloway realistically if they wanted to, but they got Podkolzin, and honestly, they're kind of the same player.
Yeah.
Well, but that wasn't, keep in mind,
I love that.
That wasn't Ken Holland, right? Because Ken Holland, once the Stanley Cup was over, Rod, and even weeks before, everybody knew Ken wasn't the GM. So you can't really, if you want to get on him for the Broberg one, okay, but you can't really say anything about Ken Holland for Holloway because he wasn't the guy making the decisions at that point.
Yeah, he was gone a week later. He did bring them into the organization. But, I mean, these are the things that you feel you show up for hours, and it's fun, but we don't really get anywhere. Jason, this has been fun, though. Thank you for it. Happy holidays, and keep in touch, brother.
Rod, anytime, buddy. Have a good one.
Thank you, pal. Sports 1440 Edmonton's Jason Gregor. And I hope, Mandy in Edmonton, this answers your questions that you've been on my back about all show. I think we covered all of your questions you wanted. We'll be right back with Overtime after this. We are live on Game Plus Television, live streaming on YouTube and Facebook today, and, of course, podcasting wherever the best podcasts are.